In a new Survey USA poll of California gubernatorial candidates, Caitlyn Jenner has 5% support. That is above 5 other Republican candidates, only below John Cos, who ran against Governor Newsom back in 2018.
Okay, Democratic strategist, owner of JC Strategies, Jennifer Holdsworth-Karp, and Senior Director of Policy at the Conservative Partnership Institute, Rachel Bovard, join us now to discuss. Rachel, relative to the media attention, 5% seems abysmal relative to how much money she's apparently poured into this race, not even close to where Schwarzenegger started off. She's hired Brad Parscale, which is an interesting choice. I don't know. I'm curious for your thoughts, given just how terrible she's doing.
Look, she's got to make a case. Right. I think this is especially true after, we saw that somewhat disastrous interview she did with Sean Hannity. I didn't think anyone walked away feeling particularly compelled by that interview. It was real short on specifics, real long on the platitudes. So, look, it's early. Arnold Schwarzenegger started out in a field of 135. So, look, after Donald Trump won the presidency, I don't think he can count anyone out.
That's true.
I believe you're referring to the interview in which she talked about how the guy who owned the airplane hangar next to hers didn't want to see the homeless. I think that's the super relatable interview that you're referring to there, Rachel.
That was the one.
Yeah.
That was the one.
Jennifer, I do think, though, for Caitlyn Jenner, this is kind of a win either way, because she's a celebrity, right? She makes her living off of attention. And if she does well in the gubernatorial race, then, that's a good thing for her in and of itself. And if she just gets a lot of attention for it, then that also is a good in and of itself. So it seems to me that that's more of the game that she's playing here.
Yeah, I think with the entire extended Kardashian clan, if they don't get attention, they die. So I think that the entire candidacy is ridiculous. She does not belong in the public lexicon, although I don't really want to hear a peep from Republicans ever again about Hollywood talking about politics, considering all of the personalities that they allow to participate in their party process. But yeah, it's a win-win for her. She gets out there and gets to make a fool of herself. And I too hate it when my neighbor airplane hangar owner complains about the homeless on national TV. But I look, she's not going to bring any recognition to any new issues. She's not going to talk about, voters and the economic problems in California. She's just going to continue to make a fool of herself and bring attention to her, awful family. And I really can't wait till we are in a, post-Kardashian world, both in television and in politics.
Oh, well, you're going to be waiting for a long time on that one. Rachel, I have a question for you here, which is that I have seen a fascinating number of people who I wouldn't call policy MAGA, but just MAGA, aesthetically, going all in on Caitlyn Jenner. What is going on there? Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, she hired Brad Parscale. There's a lot of Ryan Fournier, what are these students for Trump guys are I like Caitlyn. What's happening there? Is it bought off or is this organic? You're more tapped in than I am.
Yeah, don't forget Nikki Haley took a picture with Caitlyn Jenner and tweeted it out. Right. It was pro Caitlyn.
Yeah.
I think California tends to be kind of like Texas for Democrats, right? Yeah. That's how Republicans are in California, which is any Republican that appears to be doing marginally well. We love to set money on fire in support of them without actually looking at the demographics of the state. So I think it's a little bit of that. And also, Gavin Newsom is sort of enemy number one among Republican governors. So I think they're trying to support anyone who will take him out. But ultimately, you cannot continue to support a candidate who doesn't have an articulatable, policy platform.
Yes.
And this is kind of what we're dealing with here.
Right. Yeah, and I think, true. Jen, there was some thought of it worked with Schwarzenegger last time when we picked a celebrity. That was the way, the last time we had power, that was the way that it worked out. But so far, this doesn't seem to have quite the same possibilities that campaign had.
There's also a little bit on the Republican side right now of folks being see, I support a transgender person. I'm not a bigot. I'm not bigoted. I support transgenderism. And if you criticize her, then you're bigoted and you're anti-transgenderism, right? So there's a little bit of that going on in the Republican Party, too, to prove to themselves how unbigoted they are, regardless of the legislation that they're putting forward and the damaging legislation that they're passing. So I have seen that permeate on the right, both from the talking heads and in the policy world. But other than that, brief foray into wokeism for for Republicans. I haven't heard much substance behind her candidacy. And I think, the selfies and the pictures with, mainstream Republican politicians, proves them, what they always have been and what they always are. I think that we all have a lot of strong feelings about Nikki Haley on this show and how she is, moving the Republican Party in a certain direction. But no, there's no substance behind it. I think that there's a couple of folks in California in the Republican Party that are much more serious of her in terms of policy and being able to answer some of the warranted criticism towards Newsom headed into the recall.
Yeah. Limit to the celebrity politics. That's what it looks like.
All right, guys, stick with us. More Team Rising right after this.